In the first two videos, I've shown some sample programs, explained how to use variables and arrays, and listed most of the 4051's math functions. But I haven't talked much about how programs are executed. Every line of a 4051 basic program has a line number, which can go from 1 to 65535. But most programs use the convention of starting with line 100 and then going up by 10 at a time. You don't need to, but it's common to see. One reason for this is the auto number key. It will fill in line numbers so you don't have to type them when entering a new program. Programs automatically start running with the lowest numbered line when you type the run command, and then they run the next higher one, etc. But you can change this with a GOTO statement. Line 110 will never run because the GOTO statement will push control around it to line 120. Not an exciting program, but it shows you what I mean. We can also make decisions based on logical conditions with if statements. So if we set I to 5, then we can use that value to make a decision about where to go next in the program. We do this by giving a condition and saying what line number it should execute next if the condition is true. Let's list the program so you can see it more clearly and give it a try. Since I is 5, which is not greater than 100, control just continues on to line 120. If we change line 100 to give I a larger value, now we get a different result when we run the program. Notice on line 130 we have an end command which just ends execution right at that spot. That way we don't get both print statements executing. We've used the greater than operator to compare the value of the variable I to a number. You can use less than. You can use a single equal sign to check if two values are equal. You can use greater than equals, less than equals, or less than greater than, which looks like that, to check if two values are not equal. You can also use and, or, and not to combine logical conditions. So if we add another statement here, then we can change line 100 to say so now, in order for it to jump from line 100 and continue next at line 140, both I would have to be greater than 100 and J would have to be less than 20, which it is, so it continues on to line 140. Often you have some lines of code that are useful in a number of parts of your program. You can make them into what's called a subroutine and call it from any place in your program. This saves you from having to type it the same set of lines all over the place. When the lines of a subroutine are done, control returns to the next line of code after the call to start the subroutine. Let's see an example and throw in a little graphics while we're at it. I've already typed it in, so let's list it out to see what it does. So the first line, the lowest line number, would start first, so execution would start at 100. When it gets to line 120, the GOSUB command calls the subroutine starting at line 200. So commands continue from there, going up through the next higher line numbers. Finally, at line 250, it gets to a return command which says go back to where you were and continue on. So we called the subroutine from line 120. After the subroutine is done, execution would continue at line 130. Then at line 150, we have a subroutine call, so that would go through the entire subroutine contents again, and then come back to line 160 and end the program. So let's see what this does. Those move and draw commands look at the value of the x and y variables which are set before the call to the subroutine. And so we essentially draw little boxes at two different locations. So we could draw a number of boxes by adding a few more lines of code. Note that the cursor ends up inside the box there. Hopefully you can see it flashing in the rightmost box. Anytime you do a move or draw, that moves the cursor, and that would be where you type next. Some other statements you might want to look up at in the 4050 series graphics system reference manual that also have other ways of controlling your program are the GOTO of and GOSUB of commands, which can look at a variable and go to one of many different listed line numbers depending on the value of that variable, and also the stop command, which is similar to end. So to recap, we learned how to control the flow of a program with conditional statements and subroutines. We learned about four commands: GOTO, GOSUB, return, and if. In the next video, we'll cover more of the 4051's graphic commands.